All right, guys, I'm going to talk about some weird things that cause stress and anxiety and sleeplessness, and in more severe cases, depression. These are things that are related to things you hear, things you eat. I have to say this before I mention any of it. You have to be careful who you tell these things to because, like I said, they're pretty unknown, and a lot of people are going to gaslight you, or they're going to say that you're a little crazy. For me, some of the things, it wasn't until I started doing some research when I realized, oh, these things, there really is something to this. It's not all in my head. So let's start with number one, this window unit. And this one is a Midea. And it makes a really, really, really low-pitched noise. But you can't hear it in this room, but you can hear it in the room next door. It reverberates. And low-pitched noises are known to cause stress and anxiety. There's been tons of studies on that. The second that I turned the air conditioner off, it was like somebody unplugged me. I had almost like a current flowing through me. And the second this was off, it was just gone. No more anxiety. It's weird how quick it just stops, just like that. So that's the first one. That's a very strange one. And also, people hear a hum. 2% of people around the world hear a humming, and that started in the 60s in the UK and then eventually got here. And I would assume that's something man-made, like pipelines. Who knows? There's a lot of theories, maybe even military stuff. Now, sometimes the humming isn't what you think it is. It could be something in your head. I do have to say that, and I have had humming in my head. They call it pulsatile tinnitus, at least in my case, which is where the beating of my heart, I can hear it in my ear. It's a really low-pitched noise. Sometimes it's high-pitched. It tends to be the worst whenever I'm stressed out, so I'm always trying to keep my stress levels down so I don't hear this annoying humming in my ear. To isolate noises that you're hearing, you just have to turn everything off. Get in a quiet room, like the bathroom, and just see if you can still hear that humming. And also you can ask another person, because I was hearing the humming and I thought it was something like an oil rig way off in the distance, and then my wife didn't hear it. So then that's when I figured out it was in my head. Pulsatile tinnitus, it is not fun. And then the third thing, here's another weird one, phone chargers. This is a noise that, can you hear it? I don't think you can.
Nope.
I hear them sometimes, especially the really cheap chargers, and it's not just phone chargers. A lot of things that you plug into the wall will make an extremely high-pitched kind of a buzzing sound, and that is very annoying to me, stresses me out. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of times, low frequency noises, especially where people can't even hear them, can lead to stress and anxiety. So that kind of sucks when you can't even hear the noise and you're just stressed out. So hopefully that's not the case. I know they do have equipment they can bring in to your house. I've never dealt with this myself, but I'm assuming there's people you could call to probably bring in special equipment and figure out if you do have some sort of weird low frequency noise going on in your house that you couldn't hear. All right, here's another noise that drives me crazy, and this one would be considered a trigger because it sounds almost exactly like my pulsatile tinnitus. You probably can't hear it in the video, but this ceiling fan makes a really bad noise. It reverberates. It's like a whoom, whoom. So, yeah, some noises are fine to most people, but then, you know, this is a noise that me specifically, it just drives me insane. I hate it. Okay, I know I mentioned the ceiling fan being a trigger for me, and there is also another one, because once you have pulsatile tinnitus, at least in my case, there are a lot of things you notice that have that similar tone or pitch to them. So probably can't hear it in the video, but there are times when I'm just sitting over there on the couch and I hear that humming, especially whenever the TV's real quiet. And it didn't take me long to figure out that it was coming from here. It was it was a dryer making that exact same noise. You have to figure out how to address them A lot of times you can just turn them off, and like in the case of the ceiling fan. Now the dryer, you can't turn it off or the clothes won't be dry. So maybe go into another room, maybe go outside, maybe find a TV show that's a little louder that will mask the noise. That's the most important thing for these noises I'm speaking of, is to mask them. I've had to deal with that back here. Sleeping at nighttime, I always use white noise. It just sounds like static because of maybe that low-pitched noise in the workout room. And it's always good to kind of play a noise that offsets that, meaning like the air conditioner in there is low pitch, so I want to listen to something that's a little higher pitch. You don't want to listen to something that's too close to that noise, or then it's really going to reverberate and it's going to sound like an echoing in your head. Alright, now here's one that's related to loud noises, which would be, you know, using a handsaw, using a grinder, being on the lawnmower. Now most people think, well, you need to use your hearing protection to protect your ears so you don't have hearing loss. But there's another reason to wear these, because if you don't, then after you're on something, especially if you've been on it for a very long time, like mowing the lawn, that noise kind of sticks with you for a little while, and that definitely can lead to stress and anxiety when you have a ringing in your head. And I've dealt with that for a lot of my life and started using these, and really helps out. Okay, now let's talk about some things that I am intaking into my body. And probably in 2018, and just kind of seems like every year, I've been trying to make an effort to eat more healthy and to not drink things and eat things that are really bad for me. And I feel like it kind of makes me a little more susceptible to things that are bad for me now, because I go so long without them. But I don't know. Regardless, this is one of them, and this is just an example. Great Value Blackberry Lemonade Drink Mix, and it contains aspartame, which is an artificial sweetener, and that gives me a lot of anxiety. And what I have to use are these, which has stevia in it, or you can find something with monk fruit, which is all natural. Doesn't have any side effects on me. Now, it's definitely not a sweet, but it works. I would rather drink something that's a little less sweet than be anxious and stressed out throughout the day. Alright, here's another one, and I quit drinking pot probably 3 years ago. I just quit caffeine completely, but I never did drink coffee. But you know, here's an example of something with caffeine in it. And I just noticed whenever I do drink something with caffeine, which is usually an accident, because you don't really realize how many things have caffeine in them until you start looking at the ingredients, and then you're like, crap, I didn't even realize that had caffeine in it. But you know, something like this would be something I would drink, a green tea that's decaffeinated. I just have to really keep an eye on labels now. That's a big part of my life, is looking at ingredients, because yeah, that caffeine really makes me feel all jacked up, and just like somebody plugged in a electric current to my body. Alright, speaking of caffeinated beverages, sugar. Now this one is actually pretty commonly known, but I feel like I have to mention it in my video because it's a pretty prevalent part of my life, as far as making sure I'm not intaking too much sugar every day, because this is, I mean, think caffeine's bad, sugar's in everything. So if I have a little bit too much, and I'm just talking about maybe just a candy bar, you know, just one little thing, and all of a sudden I'm stressed out, I'm anxious, I'm all wired up. So I have to keep an eye on sugar. Okay, now let's move on to medicine. Zyrtec allergy medication. After about a week of taking this, I was really stressed out, just felt really anxious, and I was trying to figure out why. And like most of these things, you just don't realize it because they're just common things people are taking, common things people are doing, seeing, hearing, and it's just like, well, they're fine, so you don't even think about these. But yeah, this one, pretty much a few days after I stopped taking it, all those symptoms went away. And that being said, just being sick now stresses me out, because I've had dealt with a lot of things that were very strange for me whenever I was sick that the doctors couldn't do anything about. So I feel like I just kind of had to figure things out on my own now, and that's where I'm at. So allergy medication, that's a big one. All right, now let's get into some health supplements. Creatine. I know this is controversial because not a lot of people experience anxiety from creatine, but I tried it. And I mean, it was pretty quick. Just after a few days, I was feeling weird. Quit taking this, and that weirdness just went away. So I know a lot of these people are going to say, well, you got some kind of compromised immune system, or you're weak or whatever. But I feel like because I've gotten rid of so many things that are unnatural, that's the main thing. It's just these things I'm listing are unnatural. They're processed in a facility. And to me, there's something to that, and the longer you can get away from that, the better it is for you. But at the same time, it's a double-edged sword because you come back to this stuff and it might be twice as bad, as far as the symptoms go, or even worse. So that's something you gotta keep in mind. It's like when you quit drinking alcohol. When I quit drinking, I could drink a 12-pack like nothing. Now I could probably drink 1 or 2 beers and I would be feeling really, really good. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with me, and I would actually argue that means there's something right with me. Okay, so now we're into another category. I don't know what you would call this one, but maybe lifestyle choices. What do you think?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so as you can see from my office, I'm a very organized person, and for me, when I have things organized the way I want them to be laid out, like I'm at peace. When things are just a mess, it drives me insane. So that's something that really helps me out. And not having a bunch of unfinished tasks. Like I try to make lists of things, and I might start from the easiest and work up. But whenever that list gets longer and longer and longer, that just means my stress and anxiety is going to get worse. So I try to keep that list to the minimum, maybe 2 or 3 things at any given point. Another one is decision fatigue. I believe that's what they call it. But last night I was really noticing this when I was trying to figure out something to watch. And if you're anything like me, you got a million decisions now. It's not like when I was growing up and you have 3 or 4 different options to pick from. So I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to watch. I was looking for the perfect movie, and it probably took me over 30 minutes. And I just noticed that as time was moving on, I was getting more stressed about it and more anxious. So that's a big one. And that kind of ties into the phones. And I know my whole list was supposed to be about uncommon things, but the phone, that's a really, really big one. I would say that's probably the number one thing that's causing stress and anxiety in people's lives right now is the phone. So I feel like I have to mention that. But anyway, I think that's the end of my list. I'm sure I'll think of some things as soon as this video is done. But this is the main things I could think of that were a little weird. So if you guys would like to add anything to the list, things that are a little more unknown, just add it, put it in the comments, and maybe we could learn something from each other. I always like to learn new things when it comes to stress, to find out things that could be causing it, because most of these things are really easy to address. They're really easy to address but yeah, anyway, most of these things they're pretty easy to address, or at least once you know about them, then you can be aware of that and you can go from there. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching the video.